The prescription cost $22.13. I remember the 13 cents because the pharmacist repeated the total after my debit card was declined, and because 13 cents was the part that made the whole thing feel ordinary. If the amount had been $2,000, or even $200, perhaps I could have understood why my son hesitated. But $22.13 was less than Aaron had spent on the steaks he grilled the previous Sunday. It was less than the bottle of wine his wife carried into our house without looking at the price. Carol stood beside me at the pharmacy counter with one hand resting on the handle of her cane. She did not need the cane every day, only when her left knee stiffened, but the March rain had made it ache. The white paper bag holding her metformin refill sat on the counter between us. She had taken that medicine for 9 years. It was not dramatic. It was one of the small daily things that kept her blood sugar where her doctor wanted it and allowed us to live without thinking about diabetes every waking minute. "Would you like to try another card, Mr. Brooks?" the pharmacist asked. Her name was Rachel. We had known her long enough to remember when she was a pharmacy student working weekends. She kept her voice low, giving me the dignity of pretending no one behind us could hear. "There should be more than enough in that account," I said. I tried the card again. The same message appeared on the little screen. Declined. Carol leaned closer. Maybe the fraud lock came back. 2 months earlier, someone had tried to charge $1,100 at an electronics store in Arizona. Our bank canceled the old card, and Aaron offered to help set up the replacement. He changed the online password, added his phone as the security contact, and told us it would make things easier if another suspicious charge appeared. I had objected at first. Then he reminded me how long I had spent on hold with the bank, and I let him do it. That was how small surrenders happened. Nobody announced that you were giving away control. Someone you loved simply said, "Let me handle it," and you were tired enough to say yes. I stepped away from the counter and called Aaron. It was 5:42 on a Tuesday afternoon. He answered quickly, but there was irritation in his voice before I explained why I was calling. "Dad, I'm in the middle of something. Our household card was declined. Your mother's prescription is $22. Can you call the bank or give Rachel your card number and I'll pay you back tonight?" He was quiet for a moment. In the background, I heard a copier running and a woman speaking. I recognized Dana's voice, though I could not make out the words. "No," Aaron said. I thought I had misheard him. "No, you can't call the bank?" "No, I'm not putting another charge on my card. You two need to start living inside a real budget." Carol watched my face. I turned slightly away from her. "It is $22, I said. "The money is already in our account. Then sort it out tomorrow. She takes it with breakfast." Aaron exhaled sharply. "If Mom misses one day, maybe you'll finally understand why Dana keeps saying you need help managing things." The sentence was so cold that for several seconds I could not place it in my son's voice. Aaron was the boy who used to bring Carol dandelions in a jelly jar. He was the man who slept in a hospital chair after her knee surgery, yet he had just spoken about withholding her medication, as if a missed dose were a lesson we had earned. "Open the account," I said. "Now." "I can't. We're in a meeting." "What meeting?" Dana said something near him. Aaron covered the phone, but not completely. I heard the words, "Don't get pulled into it." Then he came back. "I have to go. We'll talk Friday when we bring the planning papers." The call ended. Rachel was still waiting at the counter. Carol did not ask what Aaron had said. After 48 years of marriage, she knew when I was trying to choose words that would hurt less. I opened my wallet. There were 2 $10 bills, a 5, and 3 ones behind my driver's license. Cash I had carried so long the bills had softened at the folds. I paid the $22.13, accepted the change, and put the pharmacy bag into Carol's hands. "The account will be fixed tomorrow," I said. Carol looked at the bag, then at me. "He said no, didn't he?" I nodded. "For my medicine?" I had the cash. That was not my question, Nathan. The people behind us were pretending not to listen. Rachel busied herself with a label printer. Carol had spent 29 years working in an elementary school office. She knew the difference between sparing someone embarrassment and hiding the truth from them. "He said we need to learn to budget," I told her. I did not repeat the part about missing a day, not then. She placed the bag in her purse. Her fingers were steady. "We have budgeted since before that boy had teeth." We drove home in silence through a rain that had turned the fields dark and glossy. Our house sat on 2 acres outside Lidditz, a red brick ranch with a maple tree Carol planted the spring Aaron started kindergarten. We bought it in 1989 for $87,000. I had replaced the roof twice, rebuilt the back deck, rewired the garage, and added a bedroom when my mother lived with us during her last year. The mortgage had been gone for 11 years. There was money in our retirement account, money in savings, and enough pension income to pay our bills. We were not wealthy, but we were not unable to buy medicine. When we reached the kitchen, I opened my laptop and tried to sign in to the bank. The password Aaron had written for me no longer worked. I clicked the reset link. A message appeared saying a security code had been sent to a phone ending in 4418. Aaron's number ended in 4418. Carol stood behind me reading the screen. When did that change? After the Arizona charge. You mean, when he helped us? The way she said helped made it sound like a word under examination. I called the number on the back of the debit card. The representative asked 3 questions, placed me on hold twice, and finally said there had been a transfer from checking that morning. She could not discuss all of it until I completed identity verification at a branch, but she told me the amount left in the account, $14.07. That cannot be right, I said. My pension deposit cleared last week. I can see a linked transfer authorized through online banking, she said. If you did not make it, please visit a branch as soon as possible. I can freeze the debit card now. I agreed. After the call, Carol sat at the kitchen table and opened the notebook where she recorded her morning glucose readings. She wrote the date. Then beneath it she wrote, "Card declined at 5:39 p.m., prescription $22.13. Nathan called Aaron at 5:42. Medication purchased with cash." "Why are you writing that?" I asked. "Because when people start changing your passwords, you write down what happened." Carol had always written things down. Field trip payments, bus changes, scraped knees, angry parents, medication permissions. Nothing entered or left her school office without a date beside it. Aaron used to tease her for keeping calendars from 10 years earlier. That night, I was grateful she had never learned to trust memory alone. "Friday," she said. "What planning papers is he bringing Friday?" "Dana mentioned updating emergency contacts last week. Emergency contacts do not require 3 days of preparation." I told her the rest of what Aaron had said. She did not cry. She looked down at the orange bottle in front of her and slowly removed the label receipt from the bag. "He wanted me to miss it," she said. "He was angry. Anger says careless things." That sounded like a purpose. I wanted to defend him. That instinct had been trained into me over 43 years. When Aaron forgot homework, I drove it to school. When he wrecked his first car, I helped him buy another before the insurance check came. When his first contracting job underbid labor, I covered payroll. I told myself I was teaching him that family did not let one another fall. Perhaps what I had taught him was that I would always place my hands under whatever he dropped. I slept little that night. At 8:30 the next morning, Carol and I went to the bank with our identification, the declined card, and 3 months of statements I kept in a desk drawer. The branch manager, a careful woman named Priya Shah, took us into a glass office and pulled up the account. The pension deposit had arrived. So had Carol's Social Security payment. Over the previous 6 weeks, 3 online transfers had moved a total of $18,460 into an account labeled ClearPath Family Reserve. The largest transfer, $9,800, had gone through Tuesday morning. Aaron's phone had received the verification code. "Do you recognize ClearPath?" Priya asked. Of course I did. ClearPath Senior Transitions belonged to Dana. The company helped older people downsize. Dana's employees photographed furniture, arranged estate sales, hired movers, cleaned houses, and coordinated with real estate agents. When she launched it 5 years earlier, the idea seemed thoughtful. Families were often overwhelmed when a parent had to move. Dana was organized, persuasive, and good in a room where everyone else was grieving. The first 2 years had gone well enough that she opened a second office near Harrisburg. Carol and I had loaned ClearPath $36,000 for that expansion. Walter Keene, Dana's father, loaned more. We had signed formal notes. Dana made payments for 11 months, then asked for a temporary pause because 2 large estate sales had fallen through. I agreed without telling Carol how worried I was. Family businesses had bad seasons. I had spent my working life repairing school buses, and there were winters when the district postponed half our maintenance budget. I understood cash flow. I did not understand why our personal checking account was now ClearPath's cash flow. "I never authorized those transfers," I said. Priya printed the transaction details. The authorization had been made through the access Aaron established after the fraud incident. He was still listed as our agent under a durable power of attorney we signed 4 years earlier, when I underwent surgery for a compressed nerve in my back. The document allowed him to pay bills and manage ordinary banking if either of us needed help. It did not allow him to loan our money to his wife's company. At least, I did not believe it did. Can you return it? Carol asked. Priya chose her answer carefully. I can open an internal investigation and place restrictions on digital access. Because an authorized agent initiated the transactions, recovery may require documentation showing he acted outside his authority. You should speak with the attorney who prepared the power of attorney. He died last year, I said. Then speak with another attorney. Today. We removed Aaron's phone from the account, changed every password, froze the linked transfer service, and opened a new household checking account for future deposits. Priya asked whether we wanted to report suspected elder financial exploitation. I said I needed to speak to my son first. Carol said, no. We need the information first. Priya looked from her to me. Mrs. Brooks is right about the order. I felt embarrassed that a stranger had to tell me my wife was right. We left with a folder of statements and less certainty than we had brought in. Aaron called before we reached the car. Did you lock me out of the account? He asked. There was no hello. Did you move $18,460 into Dana's company? It is a reserve account, Dad. The money is still for the family. Whose family? Ours. All of us. Put it back. We'll explain Friday. This is exactly why we need a plan. You see one line on a statement and panic. Your mother's prescription was declined because you emptied the account. I did not empty anything. I consolidated it. Put it back today. Dana's voice came through the speaker. Nathan, don't threaten him. We are trying to protect you from decisions made under stress. I had not put the call on speaker, but Carol could hear. She took the phone from my hand. Dana, she said, if protecting me means I cannot buy my own medicine, I would like to be left unprotected. Carol, Aaron told me there was cash in the house. Then why did my son tell me to miss a day? Silence. Aaron said, Mom, that is not what I meant. It is what you said. Carol ended the call and gave the phone back to me. Tomorrow at 10, she said. They can explain in this house, where I can ask questions. That afternoon, Aaron sent us a 7-paragraph email. He wrote that the transfers were a temporary administrative measure. He said rising fraud against seniors made centralized financial management responsible. He mentioned our recent difficulty completing basic transactions and Carol's inconsistent medication routine. The final sentence asked us not to make decisions based on fear before Friday's family planning session. Carol printed the email and placed it behind the pharmacy receipt in a blue folder. My medication routine is not inconsistent, she said. I have missed one evening dose in 9 years, and that was when I was in the emergency room. He knows that. Then why is he writing otherwise? I had no answer. Thursday passed with the strange quiet that follows a sound you cannot identify. I checked the county property database to make sure our deed had not changed. It had not. I called our investment advisor and added a verbal password to our accounts. Carol called her doctor, confirmed her refill history, and requested a copy. Neither of us told Maya. She was 17, carrying advanced classes and applying for summer programs. I did not want adult fear poured into her life before we knew its shape. At 9 Thursday night, someone drove slowly past our house. Headlights crossed the living room wall, paused at the mailbox, and continued. I went outside with a flashlight but saw only wet pavement. Carol told me to come back in. You think it was Aaron? She asked. Maybe a driver looking for an address. You have defended him 6 times since Tuesday. I am trying not to accuse our son of something I cannot prove, and I am trying to understand why proof keeps arriving. We went to bed without resolving the difference. At 6:17 Friday morning, someone knocked on our front door. Not rang the bell. Knocked. 3 hard strikes, a pause, then 2 more. I pulled on my robe and looked through the narrow window beside the door. Walter Keene stood on the porch in a brown overcoat, his gray hair flattened by rain. He held a black binder against his chest with both arms. His car was angled at the curb as if he had parked in a hurry. Walter was Aaron's father-in-law. I had known him for 20 years, but we were not friends in the way people sometimes assume 2 grandfathers must be. We were polite at birthdays. We stood together at Maya's school concerts. We had once spent an entire afternoon assembling a playset without agreeing on which instructions were upside down. Walter had worked in commercial lending at a community bank before retiring. He believed paperwork prevented emotion from making expensive decisions. I believed well-maintained machines prevented people from needing paperwork. We respected each other from a safe distance. When I opened the door, he did not say good morning. Is Aaron here? He asked. No. Dana? No. He looked past me into the hall. Carol? She is awake. What is wrong? Walter lifted the binder slightly. His hands were shaking. Before you let either of them into this house at 10, he said, you need to read page 19. Carol appeared behind me in her robe. What is on page 19? Walter's face tightened with shame. A record of your missed diabetes medication. Carol stepped closer. I did not miss it. I know. Then why is there a record? Walter looked down at the binder. Because the page was written on Monday. The pharmacy card had been declined Tuesday. For a few seconds, none of us moved. Rain tapped the metal gutter above the porch. Somewhere down the road, a truck shifted gears. I opened the door wider. Come inside. Walter entered but would not remove his coat. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Aaron had done homework and Carol had filled out school calendars. Walter placed the binder in the center. A white label on the cover read, Keen Brooks Family Asset Transition. Beneath it, in smaller letters, was Phase 2, Implementation. What was Phase 1? I asked. Walter rubbed both hands over his face. Making us dependent enough to agree. He opened the binder. The first section contained photographs of our house. Front elevation, rear deck, kitchen, primary bedroom, garage. Every picture had been taken from angles that made the rooms look broad and empty, the way a real estate photographer would frame them. I recognized Dana's style because I had seen ClearPath listings online. A typed note estimated our home at $438,000. Another estimated the cost of contents liquidation, including my tools, Carol's china, and the walnut dining set her father built. The second section was Walter's townhouse. The third described 2 one-bedroom units at Hearthstone Commons, a senior apartment complex 12 miles away. Neither Carol nor I had toured Hearthstone. Walter said he had never been there either. Then came the numbers. If both homes were sold, Dana expected about $640,000 after mortgages, commissions, taxes, moving costs, and ClearPath's fees. $180,000 would be placed into what the binder called parental housing reserves. $312,000 would become a 5-year family bridge note to ClearPath. The remaining money would cover transaction costs, business debts, and an emergency fund controlled by Aaron and Dana. They planned to take more than $300,000 from the 2 sales, I said. Walter shook his head. Read the next page. The bridge note had no collateral. Payments would begin after 18 months, and ClearPath could extend the term if repaying us threatened the company's operation. The interest rate was 2%. Dana's company would also receive an 8% transition fee for selling our belongings and coordinating the moves. They planned to charge us for taking our houses, Carol said. Walter stared at the table. How much does ClearPath owe? I asked. $286,000 that I know of. A private lender has a balloon payment due at the end of the month. There may be more. And you knew? I knew the company was in trouble. I did not know about your accounts until Wednesday. I did not know this plan was this far along. I turned pages. There were calendars for appraisals, estate sale preparation, and moving dates. Our house was scheduled to be photographed the following Tuesday. An unsigned listing agreement named a realtor who often worked with ClearPath. A deposit receipt showed Dana had reserved our unit at Hearthstone with money transferred from ClearPath. Then I reached a section titled Family Functional Observations. The language was polished, emotionless, and cruel. Nathan resists assistance with online banking despite documented confusion after fraudulent activity. Carol demonstrates inconsistent adherence to medication and relies on Nathan for transportation and pharmacy access. Both subjects minimize physical limitations and display emotional attachment to property disproportionate to practical need. Subjects, Carol said. We became subjects. Page 19 was a daily log. Monday's entry read, Pharmacy access to be consolidated under family administration. Anticipated prescription interruption will demonstrate need for supervised payment process. Document response and offer Friday planning meeting as solution. Tuesday's entry was filled in, though Walter said the PDF had been created before Tuesday afternoon. It said, card declined. Carol unable to obtain medication without Nathan seeking emergency assistance from Aaron. Nathan became agitated and rejected budgeting guidance. That is a lie, I said. I bought it with cash. They did not know that when this file was saved, Walter answered. Carol read the sentence again. Her face changed, not with confusion but recognition. Aaron asked whether we had cash in the house. I remembered Dana saying the same thing on the phone. Carol had cash, therefore no harm. That was how they had explained it to themselves. They had not needed her to go without medicine. They needed the card to fail, the call to happen, and the request for help to exist. The incident was not neglect in their record, it was data. How did you get this? I asked. Walter turned to the last section. Dana asked me to notarize a family support acknowledgement. She sent what she said was a signature packet to my old office email because my printer at home is unreliable. She meant to send 6 pages. She sent the entire binder. He had opened it Wednesday night. At first, he thought the care observations came from a consultant. Then he saw his own townhouse in the plan and found a notarized authorization bearing his stamp. Walter kept a careful notary journal. The document was dated 8 days earlier, a date on which he had performed no notarization. Is the stamp forged? I asked. It is an image of my stamp. The signature is mine, but it was copied from a different acknowledgement. Your daughter did that? My daughter's company prepared the packet. He would not say Dana's name in the same sentence as forged. Not yet. Carol folded her hands on the table. What did you agree to, Walter? He looked at her, and for the first time since entering, he stopped speaking like a retired banker. Too much, he said. Last summer, Dana told me she wanted to combine our housing plans. She said widowers decline faster alone. She showed me Hearthstone and said I could live near you two. I signed permission for an appraisal and allowed ClearPath to make repairs before listing my townhouse. I also loaned the company $92,000 2 years ago. Did she repay it? I asked. No. Why did you not tell us? Because I thought if your loan was being repaid, mine would be next. Then she told me you had decided to invest more. I wanted to believe her. He had learned about the transfer from our account because a spreadsheet in the binder listed $18,460 under Brooke's initial participation. On Wednesday morning, he asked Dana about it. She said we had approved the money but were becoming forgetful about decisions. When he demanded to see our signatures, she showed him the old power of attorney and said Aaron had authority. I let her explain it, Walter said. That is the part I am ashamed of. I let her explain every red flag until it looked pale enough to ignore. What changed? Carol asked. He pointed to page 19. Medication. My wife took diabetes medicine before she died. Dana used to drive across town if Ruth forgot her evening pill. Whatever trouble the business is in, I could not pretend this was financial planning after I read that page. Walter had called Dana Thursday morning and said he would not notarize anything. Dana told him he was confused and should rest. That evening, Aaron came to his townhouse and asked for the binder. Walter said it was at the print shop. Aaron searched the study while pretending to use the bathroom. After he left, Walter made 2 copies, placed the original in a bank safe deposit box, and drove 1 copy to us before dawn. They will know I came, he said. My doorbell camera sent Dana an alert when I left. She installed the account. Why did you let her control your camera? I asked. Probably for the same reason you let Aaron control your bank password. That ended my question. At 7:12, Aaron called. I put the phone on the table where all 3 of us could see his name. Answer it, Walter said. If you do not, they may change the plan. Pennsylvania required consent before secretly recording a private call, and I had no interest in starting our defense by breaking the law. I did not record. I answered with Carol and Walter listening openly. Morning, Aaron said. His voice was carefully normal. We're still on for 10, right? Yes. Did someone come by your house? I looked at Walter. The newspaper carrier. We had not taken a newspaper in 6 years. Aaron was quiet just long enough to tell me he knew. Dana's dad is upset about some paperwork he misunderstood, he said. If he contacts you, do not let him scare Mom. Carol leaned toward the phone. Your mother is already awake, Aaron. Mom. Good. How are you feeling? Medicated. Another pause. I'm bringing breakfast, he said. Bring our money, I answered. I ended the call. Walter started to stand, but Carol told him to sit. She made coffee and scrambled eggs. It seemed strange to eat while our family's plan for us lay open beside the salt shaker, but ordinary actions gave the mind something solid to hold. Walter removed his coat. His dress shirt was wrinkled, and 1 cuff was fastened through the wrong buttonhole. At 8, I called a lawyer. The attorney who had prepared our power of attorney was dead, but his former paralegal referred me to Miriam Shaw, an elder law attorney in Lancaster. I gave her assistant the shortest version I could. Unauthorized transfers. A plan to sell our home. An old, durable power of attorney. A guardianship-style care log. Medication deliberately used as evidence. Miriam came on the phone within 5 minutes. Do not sign anything, she said. Do not give them the only copy of any document. Do not agree to a medical evaluation they arranged. Email me the power of attorney and the pages showing the transfers. I can prepare revocations today. They are coming at 10. You may tell them to leave. I want to hear what they say. Then have witnesses. Keep the meeting in a common area and do not let anyone separate either of you. You can take written notes. If you want a recording, tell everyone clearly and obtain consent before you begin. Should we confront them with the binder? Ask questions before you show your evidence. A person's first explanation is often more useful than the explanation created after they know what you have. She asked whether we felt physically unsafe. I said no. Walter did not look convinced. At 9:40, a black sport utility vehicle stopped in front of our house. Dana got out first. She wore a camel coat and carried a leather portfolio. Aaron followed with 2 grocery bags and a pharmacy bag from a different store. There was no breakfast. Carol placed the blue folder on her lap. Walter waited in my workshop behind the kitchen, out of sight but close enough to hear if voices rose. Miriam had advised us not to conceal his presence if directly asked, and I intended to follow that. Dana entered, smiling. There are my favorite stubborn people. She kissed the air beside Carol's cheek and placed the pharmacy bag on the table. We picked up an extra refill, so we don't have another mix-up. Carol did not touch it. There was no mix-up. Your card stopped my card. Aaron set down groceries. Soup, bread, bananas, coffee. A kind of performance of care. He looked tired. Dad, I moved the money because ClearPath has a higher yield reserve arrangement. It was temporary. Show me the account statement with our names on it. It's held through the company. Then it is not our account. Dana opened her portfolio. This is why we need to stop using emotional language and look at the whole family picture. She placed 6 documents on the table. The top sheet was titled Family Support and Continuity Agreement. It authorized ClearPath to coordinate banking, medication payment, transportation, property maintenance, and eventual relocation. Another document acknowledged that Carol and I had experienced recent lapses affecting essential needs. A third permitted Dana's company to communicate with our doctors and pharmacy. The last granted Aaron authority to execute real estate documents for our benefit. Is this the planning packet? I asked. It is the first stage, Dana said. Nothing happens without discussion. What is the second stage? Her eyes flicked toward the hallway. There is no second stage until you're comfortable. Does ClearPath owe $286,000? Aaron sat down hard. Dana remained standing. Walter came here, she said. You did not answer my question. My father has been emotionally unstable since my mother died. He misunderstands financial documents, then becomes frightened. The workshop door opened. Walter stepped into the kitchen. Your mother has been dead 6 years, Dana. Do not use her to make me disappear. Dana's face became very still. Aaron whispered, Oh, God. Walter placed his copy of the binder on the table beside her 6 pages. Tell them what Phase 2 means. You stole confidential company material. You sent it to me. By mistake. Truth often arrives that way. Dana turned to Aaron. We are leaving. Carol spoke before he moved. Sit down, son. Aaron looked at his mother, and something of the boy he had been passed across his face. He sat. I opened the binder to page 19. Who wrote this? Dana did not look at it. Those are planning notes. They describe possible indicators, not completed events. The Tuesday entry says my card was declined and I called Aaron for emergency help. Which happened. The file was created Monday. Templates contain projected scenarios. Carol took the pharmacy receipt from her folder. A projected scenario is a guess. You controlled the card. That is a plan. Aaron rubbed his forehead. Mom, you got the medicine. Because your father had $25 in his wallet. I knew there was cash. No. After I asked why you refused, Dana said there was cash. That means you discussed how much harm was acceptable. He looked at Dana. She crossed her arms. We needed you to understand that the current arrangement is fragile, she said. What if Nathan had not carried cash? What if the fraud were real? What if one of you fell? You are proving our point by reacting to one controlled inconvenience as though it were abuse. The words controlled inconvenience hung in the room. I had repaired diesel engines for most of my adult life. When something failed, you asked whether the failure was wear, accident, or design. Dana had just admitted design. Did you move our money so the card would fail? I asked Aaron. He stared at the groceries. Answer your father, Carol said. Dana said the transfer had to happen before the lender reviewed the reserve, he whispered. I thought the bank would pull from savings. You changed the overdraft setting last month, I said. He looked up sharply. He had forgotten that I knew. You asked me to sign the change because fees were too high, I continued. You made sure it would not pull from savings. I did not connect those things. But when I called, you still refused. His voice broke. I was trying to get you to come to the meeting. Dana snapped, her portfolio closed. This conversation is over. Walter blocked neither the doorway nor her path. He simply said, Did you copy my notary stamp? For the first time, Dana looked afraid. You signed the authorization, not the one in this binder. Then we correct it. That is an administrative problem. It is not an administrative problem to use a notary's stamp on a document he never saw. Aaron stood. Dana, you told me he signed everything. He did sign. He is changing his story because Nathan has made him panic. Carol laughed once, without humor. In 48 years, Nathan has never made anyone panic. That may be why all of you thought this would work. Dana gathered the 6 unsigned documents. I placed my hand on the top page before she could take it. This copy stays, I said. It is company property. It has our names, our medical information, and our house in it. You have no right to confidential business strategy. You have no right to strategize my wife's medicine. Our eyes met. Dana released the paper. At the door, Aaron turned back. Dad, please don't call the police. Give me until Monday to put the money back. You have until the bank closes today. I can't move that amount today. You moved it Tuesday. He flinched. We are revoking the power of attorney, I said. We are notifying every bank, doctor, pharmacy, insurer, and property office that you no longer speak for us. You will not enter this house without permission. You will not contact anyone about selling it. What about Maya? Do not use your daughter as a lock on our door. Dana took his arm. They left together. Their vehicle remained at the curb for several minutes. Through the front window, I could see them arguing. Aaron struck the steering wheel once. Dana pointed toward our house. Then they drove away. Carol stood at the kitchen sink with both palms on the counter. When I touched her shoulder, she said, I want to be angry about the house. I want to be angry about the money. But all I can hear is him saying I could miss one day. I hear it too. He was 7 when I taught him to swallow a pill. He was frightened it would stick in his throat, so I crushed it into applesauce. How does a child cross all those years and become a man who treats his mother's medicine like a lever? I had no answer that would comfort her. I said the only true thing I had. One compromise at a time. Walter began collecting the binder pages. He may put the money back, he said. Will Dana? I asked. No. She will decide. The meeting proves you are irrational. Then she will find someone with authority to agree. A judge? Carol asked. Walter nodded. Or a lender willing to rely on the old power of attorney before the revocation reaches them. Miriam Shaw arrived at 1:30. She was 56, compact, direct, and uninterested in family euphemisms. She reviewed our power of attorney, the bank statements, the 6-page agreement, and selected pages from Walter's binder. Then she asked Carol and me questions separately. What bills did we pay each month? Who were our doctors? What medications did Carol take? How was our property titled? Did either of us have trouble cooking, driving, dressing, or understanding contracts? Were we asking to disinherit our son? Were we acting because Walter told us to? Carol answered every question and corrected Miriam on the date of our last property tax payment. You are not examining us, I said when it was my turn. I am preparing for the examination your son may request, she answered. Dana's binder is not just a sales plan, it is a litigation file. Those functional observations are designed to support a claim that you cannot manage essential needs. The transfer and declined prescription create the appearance of failure. Then their service becomes the solution. Can they take our house? Not merely by asking. Pennsylvania requires evidence before a court declares someone incapacitated, and guardianship is supposed to be used only when less restrictive alternatives are insufficient. But a petition can still freeze families in fear and cost money to fight. An old power of attorney can also cause damage before institutions learn it was abused. She prepared 2 written revocations, one for me and one for Carol. We signed before independent witnesses and a notary from her office. Miriam sent notices to the bank, investment firm, county recorder, our doctors, pharmacy, insurer, and the realtor named in the binder. She also advised us to place a fraud alert on our credit files and to report the transfers to the Pennsylvania Elder Abuse Helpline and local police. I resisted the police report. He is our son, I said. That explains the access, Miriam answered. It does not erase the transaction. Carol closed the blue folder. Make the report. We did. At 4:20, Priya called from the bank. ClearPath had attempted to return $4,000, but the company account lacked sufficient available funds for the full $18,460. The fraud department placed a hold on what remained and asked Aaron for records showing our authorization. At 4:47, Aaron sent me a photograph of a transfer confirmation for $4,000. Beneath it, he wrote, "This is all I can do today. If you report us, the company collapses and 31 employees lose their jobs. Think about people beyond yourself. I showed the message to Carol. She read it twice. He found 31 employees, she said, but not one mother. That evening, Maya called. She did not know about the pharmacy or the money. She asked why we had canceled the photographer. What photographer? I said. The one taking pictures of your house Tuesday. Mom said you and Grandma were finally moving to Hearthstone. She said I could choose which things I wanted before the estate sale. Carol closed her eyes. Maya, I said carefully, your grandmother and I have not agreed to move. But Mom showed me the apartment. We have never seen it. The line went silent. I could hear her breathing. She said you forgot the tour, Maya whispered. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted one person in that house to know we were not confused, stubborn, or ungrateful. But Maya was a child living under her parents' roof, and truth could become another weight adults made her carry. There is a disagreement about plans and paperwork, I said. Your grandma and I are safe. We are managing our own home. You do not need to choose a side. Am I still allowed to see you? The question cut deeper than any number in the binder. Our door is open to you, Carol said. Always. But do not sneak out or lie to your parents. We will find a proper way. Maya began to cry. Not loudly. She tried to hide it in the way teenagers hide any emotion they fear adults will use. Mom said Grandpa Walter is having memory problems too. She took his car keys. Walter was sitting across the room, his head lifted. When? He asked. Maya heard him. Is Grandpa there? I could no longer pretend the family lines were separate. I told her Walter was safe and had driven himself to our house. She asked us not to tell Dana she had called. I said I would not volunteer it, but I would not lie if directly asked. Carol reminded her to finish her homework. We said we loved her and ended the call. Walter went to the window. She took my spare keys Thursday, said my tire tread was unsafe. Is it? I asked. I bought the tires in October. The binder had called our attachment to our homes disproportionate. It called Walter emotionally unstable. It described Carol's medication as inconsistent. Each phrase had been placed like a wedge between an older person and the right to make an ordinary choice. You should not go home alone, Carol told him. He refused at first, then accepted our guest room for one night. Miriam arranged for a colleague to accompany him to retrieve clothes and important papers. When Walter opened his front door, he found every drawer in his study pulled out. His notary journal was gone. The police officer who responded found no broken lock. Dana had a key. Walter admitted she had permission to enter in emergencies, and the officer explained that proving theft would require more than disorder and suspicion. Walter listed the missing journal, his stamp, 2 checkbooks, and an external computer drive. The officer gave him a report number. I should have surrendered the commission when Ruth died, Walter said on the drive back. Dana kept asking me to notarize client documents. I told myself I was helping her business. Did you ever notarize without the signer present? I asked. He took too long to answer. Sometimes I knew the client from the bank. Sometimes Dana brought a signed page and said the person was in the car or at a care facility. Walter. I know. His wrongdoing complicated everything. If he testified, Dana would attack his credibility. If he stayed silent, she could use his mistakes as protection. He had not forged our documents, but he had spent years teaching his daughter that his rules could bend when family asked. Saturday morning, Miriam met us at the bank. Priya had assembled account access records showing Aaron's phone initiated each transfer. The money moved first into ClearPath Family Reserve and then, within hours, into the company's operating account. It paid payroll, rent, and $48,000 to a lender called Red Quarry Capital. There was no segregated account bearing our names. There was no 2% note. There was no reserve. The phrase was invented, Priya said. Your money became operating cash. Of the $18,460, $4,000 had been returned. The bank had frozen another $3,120 before it left ClearPath's account. $11,340 remained missing. Miriam asked Priya to preserve access logs, security change requests, and the recording of any call in which Aaron represented himself as our agent. Priya could not promise what would be released without a subpoena, but she documented the request. At the pharmacy, Carol signed an authorization allowing Rachel to print her refill history. Every prescription had been picked up on time. Tuesday's receipt showed payment in cash at $5.54. Rachel also wrote a factual statement. Nathan presented a debit card twice? The transaction was declined. Nathan made a phone call away from the counter. Nathan then paid cash. Carol received the medication. Rachel would not describe words she had not personally heard. and we did not ask her to. I wish I had heard your son, she told Carol quietly. I am glad you did not, Carol said. One mother hearing it was enough. Miriam helped us prepare a written chronology. The process seemed almost insulting in its simplicity. Tuesday, money transferred. Tuesday, card declined. Tuesday, Aaron refused assistance. Wednesday, bank discovery. Friday, binder and meeting. Yet each date narrowed the space in which Dana could call events coincidence. On Sunday, Aaron came alone. He did not knock until he saw me at the window. I met him on the porch and kept the storm door between us. I want to talk without Dana, he said. Where is she? At the office, trying to make payroll. With our money? He looked at the wet boards under his shoes. Part of it is gone. I know. Can I come in? Your mother decides. Carol allowed him into the living room. Walter had gone to a hotel Miriam arranged because he did not want his presence to turn every conversation into accusation. Aaron sat on the edge of the sofa where he had opened Christmas presents as a child. He looked older than 43. There were gray strands at his temples I had not noticed. Dana's lender changed terms, he began. A hospital network canceled a relocation contract, and she spent money hiring for it. Red Quarry gave her 6 months, then added fees. If ClearPath misses the balloon payment, they can take our house because we guaranteed the loan. So you chose ours instead, I said. I thought we could sell yours, move you somewhere easier, repay everything when the business recovered, and still keep our house for Maya. Carol sat across from him. When did we become easier to move than you? That is not what I mean. It is exactly what you mean. Your house holds your daughter's life, so it matters. Ours holds your whole childhood. But because you no longer live here, it is an asset. Aaron pressed both hands together. I was scared. Fear explains why you looked for money, I said. It does not explain the care log. He claimed the log was Dana's idea. Her attorney had told her that families often resisted transitions until there was documentation of need. He said he never intended to have us declared incompetent. He believed the observations would persuade us to accept help voluntarily. Did you change the account security number? I asked. Yes. Did you move the money? Yes. Did you know the card would decline? Not at first. When I called, did you know? He looked at his mother. Yes. Carol nodded slowly, as if confirming a date in her notebook. And you still said no? Dana said if I fixed it immediately, you would never attend the planning session. Do you do everything Dana says? No. Then do not give her your sin. The word sin made Aaron flinch more than accusation had. Carol was not a woman who used religious language to win arguments. If she called something a sin, she meant a choice made against what a person already knew was right. Aaron began to cry. I had not seen my son cry since Elaine. My mother, his grandmother, died when he was 19. He covered his face and said he had been trying for months to keep ClearPath alive. Dana had not slept. The lender called their home. Maya heard arguments. Every time he imagined telling us the truth, he saw Dana losing her business, Walter losing his loan, 31 employees losing paychecks, and Maya losing her home. So you made the loss ours, I said. He lowered his hands. Give me 72 hours. I can sell a company vehicle and collect 2 overdue client invoices. I'll return the rest. Dana will cancel the Hearthstone deposits and the listing. We will destroy the care file. No destroying, Carol said. Correct it. Preserve it. Truth does not need the shredder. I gave him 3 conditions. He would send Miriam a complete accounting of every dollar taken under our power of attorney. He would sign a statement acknowledging the revocation and notify every institution he contacted. He would stop all action involving our property, doctors, pharmacy, or supposed incapacity. In return, I would not call ClearPath's lender before Tuesday. I did not promise to withdraw the bank or police reports. Aaron agreed. At the door, he turned to Carol. I am sorry, Mom. She looked at him for a long moment. I believe you are sorry that the door closed. I do not yet know if you are sorry you walked through it. Monday morning, Miriam received a 2-page accounting from Aaron. It listed the 3 transfers, the $4,000 repayment, and nothing else. He signed the revocation acknowledgement. He claimed no property documents had been submitted. At 11, the realtor named in the binder called me. Mr. Brooks, she said, I received notice from your attorney. I want to confirm that you are canceling Tuesday's photography and withdrawing the listing authorization. I never gave a listing authorization. She became very quiet. Dana had emailed a signed authorization the previous Friday. The signature looked like mine. Walter's notary block appeared beneath it. Miriam requested a copy. The realtor sent it within the hour, along with Dana's email saying Nathan and Carol Brooks had decided to move promptly due to a recent medication management incident. The signature was not mine. It resembled the signature on our old power of attorney, including a small upward hook I stopped making after arthritis stiffened my right thumb. Someone had copied an older version. Walter's notary stamp was the same image used in the binder. When Miriam called Aaron, he said he had never seen the listing authorization. Dana had handled real estate. His 72-hour promise lasted less than 24. Tuesday afternoon, a caseworker from the County Area Agency on Aging stood on our porch. Her name was Denise Coleman. She held no binder and made no accusation. She said the agency had received a report that Carol was missing essential medication, that I was refusing recommended care, and that an unrelated older man with financial problems had pressured us to revoke assistance from our son. The unrelated older man is our son's father-in-law, I said. I understand there is a family dispute, Denise replied. My job is to determine whether either of you needs protective services and whether there is immediate risk. The report had reversed every fact. Aaron's refusal became my refusal. Walter's warning became financial pressure. Our revocation became evidence of isolation. Even the cash purchase was described as Nathan insisting on controlling Carol's pharmacy access after a card failure. For one hot second, I wanted to close the door. Carol touched my arm. Invite her in, she said. We have nothing to hide. Denise interviewed us separately. She inspected the medication bottle only after Carol offered it. She asked Carol to describe her schedule, meals, glucose readings, doctors, and transportation options. Carol produced the notebook, refill history, receipt, bank statement, and Aaron's email. She answered without looking at me. Denise asked me about the cash, the account, and my relationship with Walter. I gave her the binder's page 19 and explained why Walter came. She did not promise to believe us. She made copies, recorded our consent, and said she would speak with Aaron, Dana, the bank, and pharmacy. Who made the report? I asked. Reports can be confidential. Was it Dana? I cannot answer. Carol could. The phrase medication management incident appears in Dana's email to the realtor. It also appears in what you just read from the report. Denise looked at her notes. She did not react, but she underlined something. After she left, I called Aaron. He denied making the report. Dana did it to protect everyone, he said finally. If you are capable, the evaluation will show it. Then no harm. A controlled inconvenience? I asked. Dad, stop using that phrase. I will stop when it stops being your answer. He said Walter had manipulated us because he wanted to avoid responsibility for the company's debt. He claimed Walter had voluntarily notarized the listing and now feared losing his commission. Dana planned to ask a court for temporary authority to protect Carol until the conflict was resolved. You promised to stop, I said. I promised I would. Dana is filing in her own name. Do you support her? He did not answer. The petitions arrived by certified mail 2 days later. Dana asked the Orphans Court Division to determine that Carol and I were incapacitated and to appoint Aaron as guardian of our estates. She requested emergency authority over bank accounts and property, alleging that we were unable to meet essential medical needs, vulnerable to Walter's undue influence, and likely to dissipate assets through reactive financial decisions. Attached to the petition were the care observations, a copy of the declined pharmacy transaction, photographs of clutter in my workshop, and a letter from a private care consultant who had never met us. Aaron had signed a verification stating that he believed the facts were true. I read his signature 3 times. He said Dana was filing, I told Carol. He made it sound like he was standing aside. A man who signs at the bottom is not standing aside. The court denied immediate control without a hearing, but scheduled an expedited proceeding. Miriam explained that we had rights, notice, counsel, presence at the hearing, and an opportunity to present evidence. The petitioners had to prove incapacity, not merely age, disagreement, or poor judgment. Still, the papers did something I had not expected. They made ordinary life feel like an exam. When I drove to the grocery store, I wondered whether choosing the wrong brand would be called confusion. When Carol forgot where she set her reading glasses, she stopped and looked frightened. When I left a wrench on the porch, I carried it inside immediately because a photograph of clutter was already in a court file. That was the humiliation of being accused of incapacity. It did not take your choices at first. It made you watch yourself making them. Miriam arranged independent evaluations with a geriatric physician and a neuropsychologist experienced in capacity cases. Carol resented every question but answered them. I performed memory tests, explained hypothetical bills, drew a clock, and identified risks in sample contracts. The doctor told us no one passes by being perfect. Capacity meant understanding relevant decisions and consequences, not remembering every word or walking without pain. I know that, I said. Your son's petition is trying to make you forget it, she replied. For a week, Walter remained with his sister in York. He answered Miriam's calls and promised to testify. Then Dana visited him. I learned about the visit when Walter phoned me at night. I cannot be your witness, he said. What happened? Dana has copies of acknowledgments I notarized improperly. She says if I testify, she will report everyone and tell the court I designed the asset plan. Did you? I helped with early cash flow projections. I suggested your house had more usable equity than mine because yours was mortgage-free. The admission struck harder than I expected. You told them to use our house? I told Dana that if you voluntarily invested, it would solve the lender problem. I believed she had asked you. I believed Aaron when he said you were considering a move. And now? Now she says Maya will never see me again. She says I will be charged for the false notarizations and lose my pension to lawsuits. I am 69 years old, Nathan. I do not know if I am brave enough to destroy what remains of my life. You were brave enough to knock on my door. That was before I understood the price. He ended the call after apologizing. The next morning, Miriam received a sworn statement signed by Walter. It said he had misunderstood an internal planning draft, that Dana had never instructed him to forge a document, and that he could not confirm when the disputed stamp was applied. It did not say the listing signature was genuine. It did not deny the binder, but it removed the witness who connected Dana to the file. Then our bank restricted outgoing transfers from all accounts involved in the dispute, including the new household account. Priya explained that the bank had received competing claims about our capacity and authority. Automatic bills would continue, but larger withdrawals required branch verification until legal counsel completed review. They did exactly what they accused us of needing, Carol said after the call. They made us ask permission. The same afternoon, our homeowner's insurance payment failed because Aaron had changed the billing account to the now-frozen ClearPath reserve during what he called consolidation. The insurer gave us 10 days to correct it. Nothing was irreparable. Each problem had a solution. But solutions consumed hours, signatures, travel, and patience. That was how control exhausted people. Not with one locked door, but with a hallway full of handles. I became angry with Walter. Then I became angry with myself for depending on him. Miriam reminded me that our case did not belong to a single witness. We had bank records, the predated care log, the listing authorization, medical evaluations, pharmacy history, and Dana's own documents. Yet the low point was not legal. It was hearing Maya's voice on a message she left from school. "Grandpa," she whispered, "Mom says the court may stop me from talking to you because you are sick and Grandpa Walter lied. I don't believe her. But Dad took my phone last night, so if I don't call, please don't think I forgot you." Carol listened beside me. When the message ended, she went to the kitchen, placed both hands on the counter, and wept. I wanted revenge then. Not justice. Revenge. I wanted Dana's company emptied, Aaron's name shamed, and every polished sentence in that binder read aloud to everyone who had ever trusted them. I wanted to call their lender, their employees, their clients, Maya's school, and every neighbor on their street. Carol wiped her face and turned toward me. "Do not become them," she said. "They took her phone. Then we protect her without using her. We do not make Maya our witness. We do not ask her to steal papers or choose grandparents over parents. We show the court what adults did." Her voice steadied as she spoke. "And stop treating me like the person you must carry through this. The story they told begins with my medicine. That means I get to answer it." She went to the hall closet and brought down 3 banker boxes. Inside were calendars from her final years at the elementary school, tax folders, household notebooks, prescription statements, and every monthly bank reconciliation since retirement. "Why did you keep all of this?" I asked. "Because you married a school secretary." For the next 2 days, Carol built a chronology more complete than anything Miriam's office had assembled. She found the date Aaron changed the overdraft setting because she had written "bank forms after lunch" on her calendar. She found a note from the Arizona fraud call showing the bank advised us to choose our own password, contrary to Aaron's claim that the bank required his phone. She found the original ClearPath loan note, which prohibited the company from using new funds from us without written consent, while our first loan remained unpaid. Then she found a folded sheet behind our 2024 tax return. It was a copy of a beneficiary and agent review Miriam's predecessor had mailed after my surgery. Beside Aaron's name, Carol had written in blue ink, "Authority for bills during recovery only. No gifts. No business loans. Review next January." We had both signed beneath the note. The power of attorney itself already imposed duties of good faith, loyalty, and acting within granted authority. Our note did not create new law, Miriam said, but it showed Aaron knew our expectations. It destroyed his claim that family reserve transfers fit what we wanted. On Monday, the realtor's brokerage provided the original email chain. Dana had first sent an unsigned listing agreement. The realtor replied that both owners needed to sign unless a valid power of attorney authorized the agent. 46 minutes later, Dana sent the version bearing my copied signature and Walter's stamp. She wrote, "The family has a narrow window before further medical decline complicates consent." No decline had occurred during those 46 minutes. Priya also called. The bank's review found that Aaron had changed the security phone from a device previously used to access ClearPath payroll. During one recorded service call, he described himself as financial manager for my parents and asked how to prevent their debit card from drawing on savings after checking reached zero. The bank would release the audio with proper legal process, but its internal report confirmed the date, 3 weeks before the prescription incident. The failure had been designed long before Tuesday. That night, Walter knocked on our door again. He stood in the same brown coat, but this time he carried no binder. He held a single white envelope. "I reported myself," he said. I let him in. Walter had spent the day at the Department of State office with an attorney. He disclosed every acknowledgement he could remember performing without the signer physically present. He surrendered his stamp, signed a statement about the missing journal, and gave investigators the police report from his townhouse. He also corrected the sworn statement Dana had pressured him to sign. "I may lose my commission," he said. "I may be fined. If someone was harmed by a document I notarized improperly, I may be sued." "Why now?" Carol asked. He looked at the envelope. "Because Nathan was right. I was brave when I thought truth would cost someone else. Then Dana showed me the bill, and I tried to leave you to pay it." Inside the envelope was an affidavit describing the binder, the mistaken email, the copied stamp, and Walter's early involvement in ClearPath's financing. He did not minimize his role. He admitted suggesting that voluntary investments from both households could bridge the company's debt. He admitted notarizing unrelated documents without proper presence. He admitted signing the first retraction out of fear. "Dana will say this version is another panic," I said. "She can." I attached the email header from the file she sent me, the print shop receipt, and photographs I took of the binder Wednesday night. The photographs are stored in my phone account with their original dates. She can argue with me. Timestamps are less emotional. Walter had also found something Miriam did not expect. 6 months earlier, Dana sent him a draft email asking whether a power of attorney allowed an adult child to sell a parent's home after emerging capacity concerns. Walter had replied that authority depended on the document, the agent's duties, and the principal's actual wishes. He told her any conflict of interest needed independent legal review. Dana answered, "Understood. We will obtain voluntary written consent." She knew the old power of attorney was not a blank check. "Did you show this to Aaron?" I asked. Dana copied him on the exchange. I sat down. My son had not merely followed a fast-moving plan he did not understand. He had been warned 6 months earlier. Walter remained near the door. "You do not have to forgive me." "This is not about forgiveness tonight," Carol said. "It is about whether you will tell the same truth when your daughter is looking at you." "I will." "Even if Maya cries?" His mouth tightened. "Especially then. She has watched 4 adults call fear by respectable names. Someone has to stop." The hearing was 11 days away. During those 11 days, our life narrowed to preparation. Miriam separated documents into 5 categories: capacity, medication, bank access, property, and motive. She refused to include every hurtful message. "A court needs proof, not the complete history of your grief," she said. The distinction helped me. Revenge wanted everything exposed. Justice needed only what established the truth. Carol and I met with separate counsel for part of the case to make sure our interests did not conflict. We signed limited authorizations allowing our attorneys, not our family, to request records. We completed advance directives and named a professional fiduciary as backup agent, with Maya eligible to be considered only after she turned 25 and received independent advice. We did not replace Aaron with Walter. One frightened father was not a solution to another frightened son. Denise, the Protective Services caseworker, returned for a second visit. She told us she could not share her final conclusion before completing agency procedures, but she had found no evidence that Carol lacked medication, food, shelter, or medical care. She asked permission to speak with Miriam and review the bank's documentation. We agreed. "Do you believe the report was made to help you?" Denise asked Carol. "No," Carol said. "I believe it was made to create a second piece of paper saying we needed help." "Why?" "Because the first piece of paper was written before the problem happened." Denise nodded. "That is also what concerns me." Aaron called twice during those 11 days. The first time, he asked whether we would agree to dismiss the guardianship fight if Dana withdrew the petition. Miriam advised us that only the petitioners could withdraw what they had filed, and that our separate concerns about transfers and forgery would remain. I told him we would not trade silence for the return of rights that were already ours. The second time, he did not discuss court. He asked about Carol's blood sugar. "It is stable," I said. "Can I speak to her?" "You can ask. She decides." Carol took the phone. "How are you, Mom?" he asked. "I am sad." "I know." "No, Aaron. You know I am upset. Sad is different. Upset is about paperwork. Sad is looking at the little scar on your chin and remembering the night I sat in urgent care with you, then reading that you signed a petition saying I could not manage my own medicine." He began apologizing. Carol stopped him. "At the hearing, tell the truth, even if it does not save you. Then I will know whether there is a son left to speak with." She ended the call. The morning of the hearing was clear and cold. The courthouse steps were still damp from overnight rain. Miriam had warned us that incapacity proceedings could be private, and we requested privacy. I did not want neighbors or strangers treating our family's collapse as entertainment. The room was smaller than television courtrooms, with wooden benches, a seal on the wall, and a clock that ticked loudly when no one spoke. Dana sat at one table with her attorney. Aaron sat beside her. They were not touching. Walter sat behind Miriam and our second attorney. Denise waited near the side wall. Priya's bank records had been submitted with a custodian's certification, and the independent medical reports were in sealed folders. When the judge entered, everyone stood. Dana's attorney began by saying the case was not about money. It was about two older adults whose resistance to help had created an interruption in essential medication, exposure to fraud, conflict with a trusted son, and vulnerability to influence by Walter, a financially distressed man with admitted notary violations. He said Dana and Aaron sought the least authority necessary to protect us until our needs could be evaluated. The argument was calm, almost compassionate. That made it more dangerous. Nothing in it sounded like a villain taking a house. It sounded like responsible children stepping into a difficult season. Miriam did not answer with an emotional speech. She gave the judge a sequence. First, Aaron obtained control over our bank security after a fraud attempt. Second, he disabled automatic backup from savings. Third, he transferred our available balance to his wife's business without written consent. Fourth, the card failed at the pharmacy exactly as a pre-written ClearPath plan anticipated. Fifth, the family used the manufactured incident to schedule a property listing and prepare a guardianship narrative. Sixth, after we revoked access, the same family filed the petition now before the court. "The question is not whether Nathan and Carol Brooks are aging," Miriam said. "They are. The question is whether age has made them unable to understand and manage their affairs. The evidence shows the opposite. They identified exploitation, preserved records, sought independent advice, and took proportionate protective steps. Disagreeing with a son's plan is not incapacity," the independent geriatric physician testified, first by video. She described Carol's diabetes as well-managed, and both of us as capable of understanding financial, medical, and housing decisions. She noted ordinary age-related weaknesses. My slower recall of a list after delay, Carol's reduced mobility, but found no condition supporting guardianship. The neuropsychologist reached the same conclusion and emphasized that a person could make an unwise choice without losing legal capacity. "In our case," she said, "the disputed choices were reasonable." Dana's attorney asked whether one evaluation could rule out future decline. "No," the doctor said. "Neither can a photograph of a workshop predict it." Denise testified next. She explained the Protective Services report and her visits. She had found the refrigerator stocked, bills current except for the account disrupted by the transfer, medication present, doctors identified, transportation available, and both of us oriented and able to describe risks. She also found that several phrases in the anonymous report matched Dana's email to the realtor and ClearPath's care log. Did you substantiate neglect by Nathan Brooks? Miriam asked. No. Did you find Carol Brooks unable to manage medication? No. Did you identify another concern? Denise looked toward the judge. Possible financial exploitation through misuse of delegated access and coercive documentation. Dana's attorney objected to any conclusion beyond the agency's final written finding. The judge limited the wording, but the concern remained in the room. Carol testified before I did. She walked to the witness chair with her cane, placed the blue folder beside her, and swore to tell the truth. Dana's attorney asked her about metformin, glucose readings, meal planning, and the card decline. Carol answered dates and numbers without drama. Mrs. Brooks, he said, is it possible your husband's habit of carrying cash prevented a real medical risk that day? The risk was created by the people asking to control us. But you received the medication. Yes, so there was no interruption. Correct. Then why have you described the incident as serious? Carol looked at the judge, then at Aaron. Because my son did not know his father had cash when he moved the money. When Nathan called, my son learned we needed $22. He decided the possibility of my missing medicine would make us easier to persuade. I do not need to be harmed before I am allowed to recognize the hand on the switch. The room was silent. Her attorney asked her to explain the notebook. Carol described 9 years of glucose records, refill receipts, and calendars. She showed that Tuesday's medication was purchased at 5:54, 12 minutes after Nathan called Aaron. She showed that the care log was created Monday. She showed the note restricting Aaron's expected role to bill payment during recovery. Dana's attorney suggested that meticulous record-keeping could itself reflect anxiety and rigidity. Carol smiled faintly. For 29 years, school principals called it administrative competence. Even the judge's mouth moved at that. When I testified, I described the account, the old power of attorney, the transfers, and the listing signature. I admitted every choice that made the scheme possible. I had let Aaron change the password. I had delayed reviewing the agent designation. I had loaned ClearPath money after payments stopped. I had nearly refused to file a report because I wanted to protect my son. Do you still want to punish him? Dana's attorney asked. Part of me does, I said. Miriam shifted slightly, but I continued. That is why I hired a lawyer and came to court. Anger should not decide what happens to a family any more than debt should. I want our money accounted for, our signatures protected, and our choices left to us. If my son faces consequences, I want them based on what he did, not what I feel. You changed your estate plan immediately after this conflict, did you not? We changed our agents. We did not transfer the house or give money to Walter. Have you removed Aaron as a beneficiary? That is private, and it does not determine whether I know what a house is worth. The judge allowed the answer. Walter took the witness chair after lunch. Before answering a single question, he admitted that he had violated notary procedures in unrelated matters and signed a misleading first affidavit after Dana threatened exposure. Dana cried silently while he spoke. I believed her tears were real. A person can be genuinely hurt by a truth she caused. Why should this court believe you now? Her attorney asked. It should not believe me because I am honorable, Walter said. I have shown that fear can make me dishonorable. It should compare my testimony with the email Dana sent, the print shop receipt, the time-stamped photographs, and the authorization using a stamp I reported missing. Did you suggest using Nathan and Carol Brooks's home equity to save ClearPath? If they volunteered after independent advice, yes. So the asset plan was partly your idea. A voluntary loan was partly my idea. Manufacturing dependence was not. You stood to recover $92,000 if ClearPath survived. Yes. And now that recovery is unlikely. You blame your daughter. Walter looked at Dana. I blame myself for teaching her that paperwork could make a wrong thing respectable. Miriam introduced the 6-month-old email in which Walter warned Dana that any property action required actual authority and voluntary consent. Dana had acknowledged the warning. Aaron had been copied. Then Dana testified. She was composed at first. She described ClearPath's work, the families it had helped, and the employees who depended on it. She said my workshop had trip hazards. She said Carol's knee made stairs difficult, though our house had no stairs except to the basement. She said Hearthstone offered social support, transportation, and medication delivery. She said the asset plan would preserve a reserve for both households while saving a business built around serving older adults. Did Nathan and Carol ask you to reserve apartments? Miriam asked. They had expressed openness to simplifying. Did they ask you to list their home? Aaron held power of attorney. That was not my question. Not directly. Did Nathan sign the listing authorization? Dana looked at her attorney. The judge instructed her to answer if she knew. I believed Aaron had authority to sign for him. The document does not say Aaron signed as agent. It shows Nathan Brooks's signature. Who placed it there? My staff prepared documents from templates. Which staff member? I would need to review records. Why does Walter's stamp appear on a document he says he never notarized? My father gave ClearPath permission to use his notary services. A notary service is not a reusable image, is it? Dana's attorney objected. The judge sustained the form of the question, but Dana's answer had already exposed the way she viewed authorization. Once given, indefinitely available. Miriam turned to page 19. Who wrote anticipated prescription interruption? It was generated from a transition risk template. Who entered Carol's name? I may have. Who arranged the transfer that left $14.07 in the Brooks checking account? Aaron handled their banking. Who received the money? ClearPath. Who knew the card would not draw from savings? Dana stopped. The bank record answered for her. 3 weeks earlier, Aaron had asked how to prevent backup transfers. The next day, Dana's internal spreadsheet changed the status of our participation from tentative to scheduled. Did you tell Aaron not to cover the prescription? Miriam asked. I told him not to undermine the planning process by immediately rescuing his parents from a manageable consequence. There it was again, dressed in better words. A consequence you arranged? A consequence of refusing centralized support. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Brooks, were Nathan and Carol informed that you were testing how they responded when access to their own funds was removed? No, Your Honor. They would not have participated objectively if they knew. Her attorney closed his eyes. Dana realized too late what she had admitted. She tried to explain that care professionals sometimes evaluated risk through real-world observation. The judge asked whether she was a licensed medical professional. She was not. Whether Carol had consented to evaluation. She had not. Whether ClearPath had authority to remove access to personal money for an evaluation. It did not. Aaron was the final witness. He could have invoked advice and refused to answer questions that might expose him to criminal liability. His attorney, separate from Dana's, spoke with him in the hallway. When Aaron returned, he looked first at Carol. I want to correct the petition, he said. The judge reminded him he was under oath. Aaron admitted changing the security phone, moving the money, and asking the bank to stop backup transfers. He admitted signing the guardianship verification after learning the listing authorization was disputed. He said Dana wrote the care log, but he provided information and agreed to use the card failure to persuade us. Did your parents appear unable to understand their affairs before the transfer? The judge asked. No. Did your mother fail to manage her medicine? No. Then why did you verify a petition suggesting otherwise? Aaron's face crumpled. Because if the court gave me temporary control, I thought I could fix the company, return the money, dismiss everything, and never tell them how close we came to losing our house. Whose house? The judge asked. He looked confused. You said our house. Do you mean your residence with your wife and daughter? Yes. So you sought control of your parents' estates to protect your own residence. Aaron lowered his head. Yes. No speech could have made the conflict clearer. The judge did not rule immediately. She recessed for 40 minutes, then returned with written notes. She found that the petitioners had failed to prove incapacity for either Carol or me. The independent evaluations, protective services findings, financial records, and our testimony showed we understood our needs, property, choices, and consequences. She denied guardianship and dismissed the emergency requests. Then she addressed the larger record. An incapacity proceeding was not a trial for theft, forgery, or notary misconduct. She would not decide criminal responsibility. But the evidence raised serious concerns about an agent's breach of duty, unauthorized transfers, misleading court statements, and documents affecting real property. She ordered Aaron to provide a complete accounting of every action taken under the old power of attorney within 30 days. She preserved our right to seek surcharge and restitution. She directed that relevant records be sent through proper channels to the county agency, bank investigators, and law enforcement authorities already reviewing our reports. Finally, she looked at Dana and Aaron. Concern for aging parents does not permit children to manufacture the need they then offer to solve, she said. A safer apartment may be a reasonable suggestion. It is not consent. A family business may be valuable. It is not the principal whose interests an agent is required to serve. The law does not measure capacity by obedience. Carol reached for my hand under the table. The judge asked whether we understood the ruling. Yes, Carol said. It was a small answer, but after weeks of people describing her as a subject, it carried the weight of her own name. Outside the courthouse, reporters were not waiting. There was no crowd. Justice in ordinary families often happens without music or witnesses. The six of us stood beneath a gray sky, unsure where to look. Dana approached Walter first. "You destroyed me," she said. Walter shook his head. "I stopped helping you destroy other people. You were part of it, yes." His agreement took the force out of her accusation. He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not call her ungrateful. He accepted that love did not exempt him from consequences. Aaron came toward us. Miriam remained close but did not interfere. "Mom," he said. Carol held up one hand. "Not today." He nodded. "Tell Maya we love her," I said. "Do not make her carry messages between us." "I won't. You said that before." "Then judge what I do next." That was the first responsible sentence I had heard from him in weeks. It did not repair anything. But it did not demand that we repair it for him. The consequences unfolded slowly, which is how real consequences usually arrive. ClearPath missed its balloon payment. Red Quarry seized company vehicles and equipment covered by its security agreement, but it could not take our house because our property had never validly secured the debt. A competing transition company purchased part of ClearPath's client list and hired 12 employees. Others found different work. I was sorry for every person affected. I also learned not to confuse sorrow with responsibility. Aaron's accounting revealed more than the 3 transfers. Over 18 months, he had used our account to pay 7 ClearPath expenses, totaling $6,800, then reimbursed most of them days later. He called them temporary advances and omitted them from his first accounting because he believed repaid money did not count. Miriam explained that an agent must account for actions, not merely balances. The pattern mattered because it showed he had treated access as a revolving line of credit. After credits and recovered funds, $11,340 from the prescription week transfer remained due, plus $2,100 from earlier unreimbursed expenses. The original $36,000 business loan was separate and mostly lost in ClearPath's bankruptcy. We did not receive a magical check restoring every sacrifice. We recovered the money taken without consent through a settlement funded by the sale of Aaron's truck, Dana's remaining business equipment, and monthly payments secured by a consent judgment. It took 14 months. The county district attorney filed charges related to unauthorized account use and the false property document. Because investigations and plea negotiations were not ours to control, I will not turn them into a courtroom fantasy. Dana eventually accepted responsibility for offenses involving the listing authorization and misuse of Walter's notary image. Aaron accepted responsibility for unauthorized transfers and a false verification. Neither received the dramatic sentence angry viewers might imagine. There was probation, restitution, community service, financial restrictions, and a permanent record that could not be explained away as family planning. Walter lost his notary commission. He paid a civil penalty and cooperated in reviewing prior acknowledgments. 2 clients had to re-execute documents properly. No one lost a home because of his earlier shortcuts, but that good fortune did not excuse them. He sold his townhouse the following year. Not because Dana arranged it, and not to save ClearPath. He chose a smaller condominium near his sister after comparing 3 places with an independent advisor. On moving day, he kept his own checkbook in his pocket. Dana blamed him for months. Then she stopped speaking to him. Walter did not pretend the silence did not hurt. Some Sundays he sat at our kitchen table and watched his phone. He had told the truth and still lost his daughter's voice. That was the price he feared, and paying it did not feel noble. It felt lonely. "Was it worth it?" I asked him once. He looked toward the backyard where Maya and Carol were planting herbs. "Truth is not a purchase," he said. "You do not get to return it because the price hurts." Maya turned 18 6 months after the hearing. Until then, we did not pressure her to visit, testify, or carry information. Denise helped the family identify a counselor, and Aaron eventually allowed scheduled Sunday lunches after his own lawyer explained that using contact as leverage would damage both Maya and his case. At first, Aaron drove her to our house and waited in the car. Later, he came inside for coffee. Dana did not. I never asked Maya to tell us what happened in her parents' marriage. She said enough without details. Their home was sold voluntarily after the lender enforced the guarantee. They moved into a rental. ClearPath closed. Dana took a job coordinating discharges for a rehabilitation facility after disclosing the case. Aaron returned to construction, estimating under financial supervision required by his probation. At Maya's high school graduation, Carol and I sat 3 rows behind Aaron and Dana. Walter sat at the far end of our row. Nobody made a scene. When Maya crossed the stage, all 5 adults stood. For 10 seconds, love pointed in the same direction. Afterward, Maya asked for one photograph with everyone. Dana refused. Aaron hesitated, then stood beside us. Walter stayed at the other end. The picture was not a restored family. It was evidence that damaged people could occupy one frame without pretending the damage was gone. Aaron began writing letters to Carol. Not emails. Letters. Miriam had suggested all meaningful contact remain in writing for a while, but Aaron turned the restriction into something honest. In the first letter, he explained the debt. Carol returned it with one sentence. I understand the debt. Write about the decision. His second letter blamed Dana. Carol returned it. Your wife had influence. You had agency. The third letter was 4 pages. He wrote about the Tuesday meeting, the moment my name appeared on his phone, and Dana telling him that paying the prescription would ruin the care narrative. He wrote that he knew refusing was wrong before he spoke. He wrote that part of him resented us for having a mortgage-free home while he might lose his. He wrote that he had mistaken our previous help for an obligation to prevent every consequence in his life. Carol kept that letter. Does this mean you forgive him? I asked. It means he has finally described what needs forgiveness. For the first year, our contact with Aaron followed rules. No keys, no financial access, no discussion of investments without Miriam, no surprise visits, no requests carried through Maya. If he brought a form, it remained with us for 48 hours and went to an independent advisor. Those rules offended him at first. Then he understood that trust was no longer a feeling we could give. It was a pattern he had to build. He missed some steps. Once he asked me to co-sign a cheaper truck because probation restrictions made financing difficult. I said no. He did not speak to me for 9 days. On the 10th, he called and apologized for the silence without asking again. That apology mattered more than if I had bought the truck. Carol's relationship with him recovered differently. She would not let him turn the prescription into a symbol he could apologize for once and leave behind. She made him attend a meeting at the pharmacy with Rachel and learn how her refills, insurance, and emergency supply worked. She named Maya, not Aaron, as the family contact for medical emergencies after Maya turned 18 with a professional backup. Aaron accepted the change. At the end of the meeting, he placed $22.13 on the counter. Carol pushed it back. This was never a debt of money, she said. Rachel pretended to organize labels, giving them privacy. Aaron closed his hand around the bills. Then what do I do with it? Remember how cheap it was to show us what you valued? He cried. Carol did not comfort him, but she did not walk away. Sometimes mercy is remaining in the room while another person finally feels the weight you carried. Our house did not become a monument to winning. We made changes because some of Dana's practical observations were not wrong. I installed brighter lights along the basement stairs. We removed 2 loose rugs. Carol began using prescription delivery during icy weather. We hired someone to clean the gutters instead of pretending I still enjoyed ladders. Accepting useful help did not validate coercion. It proved we could choose help when it arrived without a hidden hand on the account. We also started attending financial safety talks at the senior center. The first time the presenter warned against giving adult children passwords, I felt every head in the room turned towards someone only they could see. Afterward, a widower asked me how to remove his daughter from an account without ending their relationship. You cannot control whether the boundary ends it, I told him. You can only control whether the account still belongs to you. Carol began bringing copies of her blue folder checklist. Keep independent contact information, review powers of attorney, use unique passwords, document medication pickups, and never sign a same-day family document under pressure. She did not tell our whole story. She said only that a declined card had taught us to inspect who controlled the switch. 2 years after the hearing, Aaron came for Sunday dinner without Maya. She was away at college studying occupational therapy. He brought pot roast from a restaurant because he knew better than to appear with paperwork or a financial idea. Walter was already at the table. For months, Aaron had refused to sit with him. He blamed Walter for turning a family emergency into a legal case. Walter blamed Aaron for knowing better and choosing silence. Both claims contained enough truth to keep anger alive. That Sunday, Carol placed the serving dish between them and said, "Nobody at this table gets to use Dana as the entire explanation. Eat or go home." They ate. Halfway through dinner, Aaron looked at Walter. "I knew about your warning email. Walter set down his fork. I told Dad in court, Aaron continued. But I never told you, I read it. I knew the power of attorney did not mean consent. Why are you telling me now? Because I spent 2 years saying you should have stopped us sooner. You tried. I ignored you. Walter nodded once. I also made it easier for Dana to believe signatures were details. Both can be true. They did not shake hands. They passed the potatoes. In our family, that was sometimes the more honest beginning. The $22 prescription remained on automatic refill. The copay changed over time. One month it was $19. Another month it was $24. Prices move, insurance changes, pills arrive in different bottles. But every time we picked it up, Carol checked the receipt before placing it in her purse. On our 50th wedding anniversary, she took me back to the same pharmacy after dinner. Rachel was working. Carol collected her refill, and our card approved on the first attempt. Anything else? Rachel asked. Carol looked at the display near the register and added a small chocolate bar. Outside, we sat in the car while rain dotted the windshield, much as it had on that Tuesday 2 years earlier. Carol broke the chocolate in half and handed me a piece. Do you ever wish Walter had not knocked? I asked. She considered the question. I wish there had been nothing for him to bring, she said. That is different. Do you forgive Aaron? Enough to love him without giving him the password. I laughed. She smiled and leaned her head against the seat. At 75, I understood something I should have learned much younger. Family trust is not proven by how completely you surrender control. It is proven by what the people you love do when they are given access to something fragile. Aaron had been given access to our money, our signatures, our routines, and our instinct to protect him. He used each one to delay a consequence that belonged to him. Walter's knock did not save us. Carol's records did not save us. Miriam, Priya, Rachel, Denise, and the judge did not save us. Each person held one piece, but the choice that changed everything was simpler. We stopped explaining away the first fact because we were afraid of the next one. The card declined. Our son said no. The file had predicted both. Once we accepted those 3 truths, the rest was work. Painful, expensive, ordinary work. Change the passwords. Revoke the paper. Save the receipt. Ask the question. Make the report. Tell the truth even when the person across from you shares your name. That evening, Carol placed the new prescription bottle in the kitchen cabinet. The blue folder remained on a shelf nearby, not because we expected another battle, but because dignity is easier to keep when memory has a date beside it. Aaron arrived the next morning to repair a loose board on the deck. He had asked 2 days earlier, and I had said yes. He brought his own tools. Before starting, he stood at the back door and waited for me to invite him in. That pause told me more than an apology. I opened the door. Not because everything was forgotten, not because blood erased evidence. I opened it because boundaries had turned a demand into a request, and because my son had finally learned that love does not mean entering another person's life without permission. Carol called from the kitchen that coffee was ready. Aaron stepped inside. The pharmacy receipt lay beneath a magnet on the refrigerator, its ink beginning to fade. The lesson had not.